Here we go. So we've just heard Jean Valjean singing in Les Miserables, singing "Who Am I?" And it's a moment of reckoning with his identity. It's a struggle. Do I stand up for someone who is suffering? Do I stand up for what is right? And do I reveal my identity, putting myself at risk? And the moment that we just saw was when he decided, yes, he would reveal who he is. He would stand up for what he believed was right. And then he packs his bags. He goes to the courtroom. He says, I am the prisoner. I am 24601. And then he knows he needs to flee. We're going to compare this in a moment, as soon as I pull up the text, to the story of Moses standing up for the Hebrew who is being beaten by the Egyptian. And to me, I mean, this was so obvious. And what I'm going to do now, if it works, just a moment, is share side by side the Torah text and, excuse me, I had to do this before, the Torah text and the lyrics. Sorry, I need to stop sharing my screen, arrange it, and then show it to you. So give me a second. Like I said, new tricks. Okay. I didn't realize I had to do this first. Okay, oh, I hope this works now. My share screen. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you see both side by side, or you only see the lyrics. It doesn't do that. Oh, you don't see what I'm seeing. Okay, I will figure this out. At some point, I will figure this out. Who am I? So then let's look at these lyrics and we'll then look back. And maybe what I'll do next time is I'll send you both the links so you can also be looking at it on your own if you choose to. This was the moment that made it click for me. Who am I? Can I condemn this man to slavery? Moses comes out of Pharaoh's palace where he's been raised. He looks around, he sees what's going on, he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, and he asks himself, can I pretend that I do not see his agony? Can I conceal myself forevermore? Also, this question of identity. Who is Moses? Is he an Egyptian? Is he an Israelite? He was born to a Hebrew slave. Does he, a lot of the questions around Moses' identity has to do with when does he learn that truth? Does he always know that truth? Or is it only in this moment, as some commentaries have suggested, that he's just learned his origins? Can I conceal my origins? Can I pretend I'm not the man that I am? And then, of course, the moment of I made that bargain long ago, Jean Valjean is talking about a kindness that he had been shown. Long ago, there was a priest who showed him forgiveness and who sort of got him on his path toward becoming an upstanding citizen. So he had been shown kindness by another. And now how can he withhold that same kindness to someone else who is suffering? Of course, Moses was saved by the kindness of Pharaoh's daughter. And so now he knows he's only here because of the benevolence of another person. How can he ignore that now? How can he withhold that kindness, that compassion to another? And the moment that he does stand up for this person who is suffering, he then has to flee. Valjean flees and Moses flees. So I'm going to switch so we can look at the Torah text because my plan didn't work. I have to do it manually, separately. Okay, here we go. So now we're going to jump into the text. Let's take this apart. What just happened in the narrative is, and when I read, I'll toggle between Hebrew and English, but obviously follow along with whatever is most comfortable for you. This is chapter 2 of Exodus. When Bat Paro, Pharaoh's daughter, has this baby and finds a wet nurse to nurse the baby, and essentially between verse 9 and verse 10, many years pass. The question is how many years pass, because it simply says Vayigdal Hayeled. The child grew up. The child grew, some say that's when he was weaned. Vativi Ehu Levat Paro, which makes sense because then that's when this wet nurse, who by the way was of course Moses' own mother, because Miriam kind of did that sneaky big sister thing and said, I can find you a wet nurse, and finds Yocheved, finds their mother. This Hebrew wet nurse brings the child back, Lebat Paro Vayihila Leben, and then he is like her son. He is raised as her son in Pharaoh's palace. Vatikra Shmo Moshe. She names him Moshe. Min hamayim mishitihu. I drew him from the water. But again, we have Vayigdal. Vayhi bayamim hahem Vayigdal Moshe. And Moses grew again. Moses grew and Moses grew. It's a moment of growth or realization. The commentaries sort of have this debate. Maybe this second Vayigdal is when he's become a young man. That he's 20, that he's ready to go out on his own. I think it's Rashi who says Vayigdal is that he became advanced, great. He gained greatness in position, that he became a prominent person. Either way, it's a moment of change and a moment of kind of having reached a certain stage, very much the Jean Valjean moment of, okay, I'm here, I've arrived, I'm secure, I'm solid. Right, I'm the mayor. Jean Valjean says to himself, I am the mayor of this town. And he has people depending on him. Moses here really doesn't. Vayigdal Moshe vayetze el echav. So this phrase is the source of the possibility that this moment he goes out to his kinsfolk, to his brethren, possibly because it's the first time he's been told, those are your brethren. You're not an Egyptian prince like you always thought you were. You are a Hebrew. And he says, what? That's me? Those slaves are my kinsmen? And so he goes out, Vayar b'sivlotam, and bears witness. He sees their suffering. Vayar ish mitzri makeh ish ivri me'echav. He sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew of his achim. Notice this emphasis, me'echav. He sees his echav, his brethren, and he sees one of his brethren suffering. And so maybe there's a moment of identifying with this person. That also is the Valjean moment, right? He knows there's another man who's in his place. You had been in that place. He knows what it's like to be arrested by Javert and to be accused of terrible crime. So how could he not step in? But there is this who am I moment in the text, is this moment, Vayifen Kovacho. He looks this way, he looks that way. What do I do? Who am I? Vayar ki ein ish, he sees nobody is present. Vayar ki ein ish, oh, I'm sorry, I think it was this. Here. No, okay. I opened one before and I forgot to leave it open. Anyway, he's looking at who this person is. He's looking at who might be witnessing the act that he's about to commit, the crime. Vayach et hamitzri. He strikes down the Egyptian. Vayitmenehu bachol, and buries him like very. It's not the word for kavura, for a burial. Vayitmenehu is just covering him. So that's why the translation here is, and he hid him in the sand. He hid him in the sand. the who am I moment is this moment, and I wonder if that's one of the places where the Les Mis song might be instructive. Um, what is Moshe feeling? What is Moshe weighing? Who am I is a moment of what is my truth? What is my identity deep down? Regardless of whether I'm the mayor or the convict, what are my values? And Vayar ki ein ish, he sees that there is no ish, to me, has echoes of um, the teaching of Pirkei Avot, b'makom she'ein ish, hishtadel lihiyot ish. In a place where there is no man, there is no one else who will stand up for what is right, you be that person. I want to pause and just look at the chat for any comments. 24601 was his prisoner number. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. So the question of has Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh, told him who he really is? That's a question that I think remains unanswered, simply because the text, you could read the text either way. The text doesn't tell us what Moses knows and doesn't know. So one way of reading it is Vayetze el Echav, the reason he walks outside there to look at the slavery with new eyes is because someone has told him then, now you're a young man, now you're 16, or now you're 20, now you're a young man, it's time for you to know the truth. The other possibility is that he always knew. The important question on the first Vayigdal, you see there's Vayigdal and Vayigdal. The commentaries pick up on this, and he grew and he grew. The question of the first Vayigdal is, how old was he when he left his mother's house? If he had been taken in by his mother as a wet nurse, was he old enough to have remembered? Was he 2 or 3 or 4 years old? What does weaning mean in the ancient world? And if he was old enough, then of course he maybe had been taught the Shema, you know what I mean? Like he had been taught about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He had been taught of the narrative of his people. So the question of who am I for Moses remains an open question in the text. And yes, it is strange if we think that his Egyptian adopted mother told him his true identity. It is strange that, of course, she's in an atmosphere where her father is killing the Jewish boys. So what does Pharaoh know or not know? Or to what extent is this a rebellious daughter, a rebellious princess, standing up in her own way to her father's immorality? I'm just reading down the comments. If I stay silent, it's easier, but I condemn others to their doom. Exactly. So that's what hangs in the balance. And that's the line in the song. If I speak, I am condemned. If I stay silent, what he means by I am damned is, of course, he means in the spiritual sense, in the Christian sense. I'm damned to hell, or I am immoral. And Judy, thank you for that comment. Not only who am I, but who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? Who can I become in this moment, in this moment of decision? The who am I moment for her as well. Very interesting, Sandy. Yeah, the moment of what does the Pharaoh's daughter do with her power or with her actions? If I speak his truth, she's in trouble too. Nice. Other comments about that? Please keep putting it in the chat. This is excellent. So he makes a decision, the same decision that Jean Valjean makes. He makes a decision to do what is right, to defend the innocent. I mean, the parallels are amazing. To defend the innocent, to speak up, or in this case, we don't have any voice from Moses. We only have an action. So that's interesting as well. Nobody is speaking here. He grew, he went, he saw, he turned, he looked, he hit, and he buried. Look at all of those action verbs. And it's only then in the aftermath, after the decision has been made, the action has been taken, and unlike Jean Valjean, who knows as soon as he opens his mouth, he's got to run away, like head out of that courtroom. And for those who have seen the musical live on stage, it's an awesome moment where they bring in the set. He's standing right in front of the judge. He declares 24601. They even have him like show his tattoo with his prisoner number or whatever it is. And then he runs right off with his satchel. So you saw him packing it. You know, what you get from the movie that you don't get on the stage is all those great close-ups. You see his face, you see him packing, you see him getting ready to go. He stands before the court, he speaks, and he runs. Here, Moses, Vayetze Bayom Hasheni, Moses goes out the next day and finds out that there were witnesses to the crime. Vehine Shnei Anashim Ivrim Nitzim, 2 Hebrews are fighting. An argument. Vayomer, there's the first speech in this whole scene. Vayomer la rasha lama takere'echa. He says to the wicked one, I don't know how he seems to have determined who was fighting against whom or who was the guilty one. Why are you striking your re'acha, your re'echa, your fellow? Of course, ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha comes into our ears. Love your fellow as you love yourself. That's anachronistic. That's backwards because that command hasn't yet been given in the Torah. But why is Moses so upset? He has established this sense of, I'm not going to stand by my brother's blood. This sense of responsibility to his kinsman. And now he uses that same message. How can a Hebrew strike another Hebrew? And the comeback makes him realize, oh no, I've been found out. Verse 14, Vayomer, Mi samcha le'ish sar v'shofet aleinu. Like, what are you, vigilante justice here? Are you our boss? Halehargeni atzomer. Are you going to kill me? Are you trying to kill me? Ka'asher harag ta'et hamitzri, just like you killed that Egyptian. We saw you. We saw you strike a man down. Why are they trying to defend the Egyptian? Why are they upset that Moses killed an Egyptian? The Egyptians are the taskmasters. The Egyptians have enslaved them. What are they troubled by here? And please pour things into the chat. It really enriches the discussion. They're like, you're going to kill me just like you killed that guy? Moses realizes, oh no, he's been found out. Vayira Moshe, Vayomar Achen Noda Hadavar. Now, he doesn't flee yet, but the moment where he flees is the next verse, verse 15. Vayishma Paro et Hadavar Hazeh. Pharaoh then heard this matter. It doesn't say which matter. Maybe he heard, because of this exchange. Maybe someone overheard the exchange, or maybe someone else had seen the murder. But he hears that Moses killed the Egyptian. Vayivakesh laharog et Moshe. He's going to mete out justice from the throne. I'm just looking back into the chat. He can only take action once. Thank you, Elaine. Then he has to run away. It's a singular event. It will necessarily be one lone accomplishment. Without God taking action, Moshe won't be accomplishing anything more. So that's interesting. You're implying that Moses doesn't have enough motivation at this point to continue down this path. He freaks out. He's afraid and he runs. He flees. I mean, I could also say the opposite, which is he's been bold, he's been brave, but he's not going to be stupid. He knows the king, his step-grandfather, his adopted grandfather, is out to get him. And now, by the way, he's made it clear to the Pharaoh whose side he's really on. So anyone who was in doubt, who thought maybe Moses feels like an Egyptian, maybe Moses, even if he knows he was a Hebrew, he was born to a Hebrew mother, has now, put on that headdress. I can't stop seeing the images from the Ten Commandments, right? He looks like an Egyptian royal. And and then he kills an Egyptian to defend a Hebrew. Oh, we know whose side he's on. Naomi is saying this is the beginning of seeing Moses as a leader. Yes, I think so. It's the first time he's stepping out. And I mean, I can almost, see that scene. Vayetze el Echav, like he grows up and he steps out and looks. I know there are scenes like that in the Ten Commandments. He literally looks out over the slavery. Please, the thought questions like this are really wonderful. What would have happened, I wonder, if he had not been seen? Jean Valjean made the moment happen. So had he not been seen, you think Moses, what do you think? You think he would have done more of this? I'm going to ask you to put in the chat, what would have happened had Moses not been seen? Would he not have fled? I'm just going to go on to the next comment that's sitting here. Is it was a price to pay for having killed someone, regardless of being found out. But unlike Jean Valjean, he did what he thought was right, defending the defenseless. And Jean Valjean stole a loaf of bread to feed his family. Yes, Jean Valjean did have a crime way back when, but he did it in the name of compassion for his family. And this too, by the way, is a crime of compassion. This is a murder of compassion. Thank you, Elaine, for clarifying. So I don't think Moshe is not brave. He acts rightly, but now he is stuck. That's true. He is not going to be able to organize a large rebellion. Without the larger rebellion, this one incident will not accomplish much. So he runs away to protect himself. I wonder if it's also to bide his time or to wait for a burning bush to come at the right time in the right place. I mean, Jean Valjean flees and then just has to stay in hiding and continues to flee and continues to flee. And of course, later in the musical, there's another moment of compassion where he has compassion for Javert. That upends the whole thing. There's another class coming on the Javert, Jean Valjean sort of dynamic of the, which way do we see the world? Is it a world of justice or is it a world of compassion? The compassion of Jean Valjean's character totally upends Javert's understanding of the world, so much so that he has to commit suicide. So, okay, those are for the coming attractions. Julianne, so I'm sorry, Anita is saying both men have to be in a position of more power in order to make change. Certainly Moses had to. Jean Valjean knows he had to stay hidden, but eventually he can make peace with his crime. Yes. And Julianne, he may need time to realize the magnitude of his action and sees this as a turning point in his life. Maybe. And I think the model of Moses running off and going to be a shepherd, there's a sort of, you can call it a mythology or a pattern of, and I don't use mythology in a disparaging way. It happens several times in the Torah, but it also happens in other cultures and other literary genre, where there's the hero has to go away. It's the Gilgamesh, right? You have to go away to become yourself and then return, but return as a new man, return as that leader. So Moses is now setting out on a journey that is physically a journey, but also maybe a journey into himself. And on that journey out to Midian, which is where he winds up, he first of all meets his wife. We're not going to read this part of the story in depth, but he meets his wife. He settles in, and also saves again, an act of compassion, saves the women from the surrounding shepherds who are driving them off. By the way, he does look like an Egyptian because the women who are around the well, they say to their dad, each mitzri, an Egyptian rescued us from those shepherds. And then Yitro says, really, where is he? Like, I have all these daughters to marry off. How did you leave him at the well? And bring him in. We'll see which one of you will give. Okay, so we're getting a little bit off topic, but my point is that he settles in, he becomes himself, And it's only then at the moment when he's ready that God comes to him and says, "You are the one to take on this mission, to come save the Hebrew slaves." I'm going to stop this screen share for a moment, look back at our lyrics one more time. See if anything else emerges, and then we'll open up the discussion. So I really didn't focus on the beginning. The beginning is very particular to the Jean Valjean, he thinks this man is me. That's not what's happening for Moses, but I do think there's an identifying with that man. Right? Moses steps out and sees this man is me. Like, I could have been him. Had I stayed in my mother's house, I would have been this Hebrew slave. Now I don't have to right this wrong, and I'm at the top of the world. And again, this part, I'm a master of hundreds of workers, right? This is really, again, Moses doesn't have that responsibility. This is Jean Valjean. But again, the question of whether or not to stay silent. And that's when he starts to ask, who am I? Who am I at my core? Am I an Egyptian? Am I a Hebrew? Am I the ish b'makom she'ein ish? Can I be the person who stands up when nobody else will speak out? And if I'm not, I'm essentially condemning this man to slavery. So the silent observer, it's in the Hebrew, it's actually a halachic term, a halachic legal term, shtika kahoda'at dami. Silence is acquiescence, is aiding and abetting a crime. I'm looking at all the lawyers here, wondering if that resonates with civil law. The bystander, right, is endorsing the perpetrator. So how can I essentially actively condemn this man to slavery by not defending him? Now, did he have to kill the Egyptian? I don't know. Was there a struggle? Was there first sort of, hey, you get off of him? What did he ever do to you? Like, I can imagine, was there a street fight of some sort, or did he just get up and kill him? The text doesn't tell us. But again, this question of my name, who is my name? Who is Moses? It's interesting because his name is an Egyptian name. But what does it mean to be a slave, to be a Hebrew, and to identify with these slaves? So I'm going to stop the screen share so I can see more of you. And please, rather than just unmute, just raise your hand so I can recognize you one at a time, and tell me what you're thinking about, or questions that you might have, reflections, anything at all that's striking you in this conversation. So just, you can also do the fun hand raise function in the Zoom. But I see Lona with an old fashioned hand raise. I see Lona and then Pepita. So go ahead, unmute yourself, Lona. Or do you want me to unmute you?
No, I'm done.
There you are. Okay.
So I've been thinking, I know we've been talking about compassion and justice, and of course, redemption. I was thinking about the golden rule, because how do we live our lives? We try to live our lives by that particular concept. And in the end, Jean Valjean is able to do that.
Right, right.
And so is Moses. And look what happens to Moses. He becomes the leader. So, yeah.
And that maybe also speaks to what someone else was saying, that this is the moment where he begins his leadership by exercising that, as you're saying, that golden rule, that acknowledgement that I can put myself in someone else's place and treat them the way I'd like to be treated.
And that's could be the best place to be.
And that's the identifying with other, right? The re'acha, ve'ahavta re'acha kamocha. That's what I was referring to with love your neighbor as you love yourself. Thank you. Pepita, unmute. And keep throwing things into the chat, everyone, if you'd like to.
What strikes me is that Moses only acted when he thought he couldn't get caught. He only acted after checking right and left whether anybody would see him, and then he hid the corpse. Whereas Jean Valjean went out and said, I am 24601. So to me, there's a very different moral stance. So the
Hmm.
Moses,
Moses
like,
was still hiding. It was still,
and he
there's
was,
a little bit of
and he was,
cowardice there.
yes, and he was frightened when he heard that people knew about it. So was his leadership sort of imposed upon him by the events rather than his taking it on like Jean Valjean did? And I'll mute myself now.
Well, and there's evidence, no, but there's evidence to that. The idea that leadership was imposed on him is evidenced later in the text when God comes in that burning bush and Moses says, no, 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 not me. Argues for, according to the Midrash, argues for 3 days standing at that burning bush until finally God says, all right, I'll bring your brother in and maybe with him you can do this. But maybe there's a personality piece there to Moses. Um, Maybe it's just, again, he needs time to exercise those muscles, and he's been sheltered. He's been a prince. He's been a mama's boy. He hasn't had to do a thing for himself, as opposed to Jean Valjean, who's made his way on his own. And even his crime was a crime of standing up for the downtrodden or the needy. I see Anita, your hand. I just want to read a couple more in the chat, and then it will be Anita and then Gloria. Sorry, here we go. So, oh, now I can't keep track of which one I read. He may need time to realize the magnitude that we talked about. If Moses had stayed, he might not have been found out. No slave was going to turn him in, right? Jean Valjean knew being hunted would stop if he didn't speak up, right? How does Moses' speech impediment play a role here? That's interesting because there's no speaking. He doesn't speak. So he's a man of action. He's not a man of words. Lo ish devarim anochi is what he says at the burning bush. Like, I'm not good at going to talk. Don't make me stand up and speak to Pharaoh. I don't think he was a coward, Elaine is saying. Moshe has to take action when it is really possible to do it. Thank you. Anita and then Gloria. Go ahead, Anita.
I was just thinking about how Jean Valjean, and I never put these two together, so I love this.
Isn't it great?
I know, we could do this forever.
So obvious.
I know.
Once
it's
you
so
see
obvious. Jean Valjean knew that if he didn't speak up, not only would he be condemning this other man, but he also knew that he was being hunted up and down. And Javert was never going to rest until he found him. And then he did find him. So I think that there were two things going on with Jean Valjean. It was not just that he would condemn this other man, but he also knew on his own behalf, the hunting would stop. And so for him,
right. There was an extra self-serving motivation that could have, that makes his turning himself in even more of a grand gesture, or more of a risk to
it had much more impact. Whereas Moses could have lived, other than whatever it did to his insides to know that he killed somebody, it have been found out. Whereas Jean Valjean risked everything.
Thank you. I'm seeing a chat just to myself, which is that Moses starts from a position of being an imposter, of being something he wasn't. Yes, and I want to make more. I know, Gloria, you have, just hold on to your comment. I want to make more also of, again, I know we can geek out on the musical a lot, but I want to focus a little more on Moshe. The fact that Moses knows he's only there because of the kindness of another, because this woman saw a baby in a basket and saved it. What does it mean to live your whole childhood feeling maybe like an imposter, or feeling indebted to another one's kindness? What does it mean to be adopted? Gloria, go ahead. Either on that note or on whatever you were going to say before.
Well, first of all, I was going to say that this is the beginning of the development of a superego, of internalizing what's the right versus the wrong thing, and making friends with your own superego that will help you make good choices. But the first thing I want to say is whether Moses knew of his origin, his true origin or not, I think he was acting out of compassion for somebody who he saw was the under situation. So it may not have been dependent on him knowing his true identity, that he has an innate sense of compassion and what could be better for a leader?
Yes, that's the midrash as well with regards to the burning bush moment, says that the only reason he noticed the burning bush was because it says, and he turned aside. He turned aside to notice, to see, that little lamb ran off, or to notice there was something unusual. Hishtadel lihiyot ish, becoming that person who is not hiding from trouble, starts by noticing it. And actually, I wanted to also speak to there's another Jewish text that speaks to this, which is much later in the Torah, in describing, when you see someone in need, don't hide from them. Lo tuchal lehit aleim. Don't disappear. Open your eyes to the person who is in need. That's very much, consistent with this, the emotional state that is necessary to then take action. Not sort of turning aside and pretending you don't see that person suffering. Other hands being raised, or oops, I just tried to mute you, Gloria, and then you were muting yourself at the same time. And we don't need to go the full hour. I know we get zoomed out. I know my brain gets zoomed out after a while. I want to close the conversation and play the song again. But any last comments or thoughts, feel free to put it in the chat, or to use the raise hand function, or to use your actual hand. We're saying in the chat as well, yes, the need to show compassion to others since you were saved by it. Yes, that's exactly what I meant. Thank you for articulating it. Moses knew that his whole life depended on the compassion of others. Now is his chance to pay it forward. And yes, in each of these moments, his life entailed his turning at his glance, changing his views, changing his perspective. Another chat, which is just to me, surely Moses saw the slaves being abused every day. It's as though he has a revelation. Right, he had seen it before, but had he really seen it? He has to stop just watching and actually do something. And that's where I think it's very compelling to assume that was the first time he learned he was a Hebrew. Because had he seen it before, of course he had seen it, but he didn't put himself in that position until now, until he realizes who he is. I think Moses was never told, but sensed, as children do, that he was different from those in the palace. Feeling different optimizes a hypersensitivity about others. Very interesting. And I'm going to now just share the sound. We're not going to watch it again, but I feel a loyalty to the original London cast recording of Les Mis. And so that's the original Jean Valjean. I blank on his name now. Someone out there who's a Broadway geek better than I am probably could know and put it in the chat, or do a little Googling and put it in the chat. I'm going to play just this audio. If you give me a moment. And as we are listening, see how much of this now you hear Moses' story.
He thinks that man is me, he knew him at a glance. That stranger he has found, this man could be my chance. Why should I shave his hide? Why should I right this wrong? When I have come so far and struggled for so long. If I speak, I am condemned. If I stay silent, I am damned. I am the master of hundreds of workers, they all look to me. Can I abandon them? How would they live if I am not free? If I speak, I am condemned. If I stay silent, I am damned. Who am I? Can I condemn this man to slavery? Pretend I do not see his agony. This innocent who bears my face, who goes to judgment in my place. Who am I? Can I conceal myself forevermore? Pretend I'm not the man I was before? And must my name until I die be no more than an alibi? Must I lie? How can I ever face my fellow men? How can I ever face myself again? My soul belongs to God, I know. I made that bargain long ago. He gave me hope when hope was gone. He gave me strength to journey on. Who am I? Who am I? I'm Jean Valjean. And so, Javert, you see it's true that man bears no more guilt than you. Who am I? 2, 4, 6,
There you have it, folks. So I hope that I've now given you an earworm that's going to be turning in your head throughout your day. Thank you so much for joining. So the way it's going to work